take a few minutes here. I know Jill's not going to be here today, so.
Mr. Knight and I just finished a meeting, so he'll be here.
Oh, good.
Richard, I'm
Yeah.
on my phone at the 0729. I'm having a little computer issue, so I'm on my phone for right now.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. So let's wait a few minutes to see if Andy will join us, and then we can get started. Sarah, do you want to call the roll for this regular session here?
Sure. Councilmember Avila. Here. Councilmember Gabler.
She's excused.
Councilmember Geislinger.
Here.
Councilmember Knight.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Here.
Councilmember Pico is here. Councilmember Scorman.
Here.
Councilmember Strand.
He's excused.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
All right, so there's 7 of us present. And Bill, did you have a question before we go into an executive session?
Before we discuss executive session, and talking to Ms. Lessig the other day, she said no new information was going to be available. So I question the need for an executive session. I think we should go directly into public discussion about these issues.
Okay, well, let's see what everybody else thinks. And I, for one, I think we should. But Tracy, do you want to comment on that? I think you may have your microphone off. Yep.
Better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Good morning, Council President and Council members. Tracy Lessig with the City Attorney's Office. Would you like me to go ahead and read the executive session language?
Yeah, go ahead. We can have a brief discussion and see if people want to go into executive session. Go ahead.
In accord with City Charter Article 3, Section 3-60D, and its incorporated Colorado Open Meetings Act, CRS Section 24-6, 402-4BC, and G, the City Council in open session is determined whether it will hold an electronic closed executive session. The topic of the electronic closed executive session is Formal Ethics Complaint 2020-01. The issues to be discussed involve conferences with the City Attorney's Office for the purpose of receiving legal advice, CRS Section 24-6, 402-4B, matters required to be kept confidential by federal or state law or rules and regulations, CRS Section 24-6, 402-4C, CRS Section 2472, 6A2A and 6B2, work product prepared for elected officials, and CRS Section 2472, 3A13, deliberative process materials, and consideration of documents protected by the mandatory nondisclosure provisions of Part 2 of Article 72 of Title 24, commonly known as the Open Records Act. CRS Section 24-6, 402-4G, CRS Section 2472, 6A, 2A, and 6B2, work product prepared for elected officials, and CRS Section 2472, 3A13, deliberative process materials. The President of Council shall poll the City Council members, and upon consent of 2/3 of the members present, may conduct an electronic closed executive session. Each City Council member participating in the electronic closed executive session shall affirmatively state for the record that no other member of the public not authorized to participate in the electronic closed executive session is present or able to hear the matters discussed as part of the electronic closed executive session. If consent to the electronic closed executive session is not given, the item may be discussed in open session or withdrawn from consideration.
Okay, so I'm going to go and ask everybody how they feel, and I will start with Yolanda. Do you want to executive session?
I think to defer to Bill, I think we need to have a discussion on it before we vote.
So you think yes, we should go into executive session?
No, I think we should
Wait,
have a little discussion about going into executive session.
Oh, okay.
Before we
All
vote.
right, so let's before I call the roll, is there anybody else? Don, do you have any thoughts?
Well, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we've had these discussions in the past about transparency and making sure we don't have decision making with inside the exec session. But what we came to as a council is we would do all our discussions in the exec session. And then when we came out, we would vote with no further discussion. So because this matter is of that, it's a personnel issue, which is by its nature, not public information. I think when we come out, the only thing we're going to do is vote. Isn't that correct? We're not going to have any further discussion?
Well, Councilmember Knight, I think it is appropriate based on the way the Code of Ethics is set up to go into closed executive session for your deliberations. The report is a confidential report, and unless that report is released by council, none of that report can be discussed in public. And so the way that it is set up, the code, this is a confidential recommendation to City Council. And in the past, your deliberations on that have happened in closed executive session. And then there's also an open item to come out of closed executive session and do a vote. I think it's council's purview to determine whether there'll be discussion at that point or not.
Okay, thank you.
Point of clarification here, because we already have a recommendation from the Ethics Commission, a recommendation with findings. I talked to the complainant this morning, and he's releasing the complaint publicly. All right, so where does that stand?
Well, the complaint is a public record at this point, Councilmember Murray. Nothing else in the investigation is a public record. It is all confidential and can only be released by a vote of council in open session.
And it should. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on going into an executive session?
This is Dave.
Dave.
Bill, the conclusion that you just made, I'm not going to prejudge my conclusion on whether the other material should be released or not, but the decision that you want us to reach can only be made if we go into closed executive session, have the discussion, come to that conclusion, and then make the decision to release it as we come back into open session. Am I correct about that, Tracy?
No.
I didn't
You can
ask
make it
Bill.
an open
I asked
session.
Bill, I asked our attorney. Tracy, am I correct that the private documents can only be released if we make the decision to do that after a closed executive session, and then come out and make the decision to go?
Well, Councilmember Geisler, that is how it has been done in the past, is any discussions about the confidential report have happened in closed executive session. And then after those discussions have happened, and council has come to open session, there generally has been a formal decision on how to move forward with the complaint, and then a decision regarding whether or not to release the confidential report from the Ethics Commission.
Then that's fine. I think we need to go to closed executive session to have that discussion and then decide whether or not how we want to proceed with the documents going forward.
Okay. Any other discussion? Anybody else have any other thoughts? I agree. I think we should go into executive session and, at least discuss whether we want to release the information, and that's something that we can do, in executive session. We've always done that. Anybody else have any other thoughts? I think I'll just go around and call the roll if there's no other thoughts. All right. Well, Yolanda, have you made a decision?
I have.
Okay.
Are we going to vote now?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask if we should go into executive session. You're the only one that would be no, or yes, or no, or yes, one, and then the rest of us we have to say two.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we could have the discussion, and so I'm going to say yes to the executive session.
Okay. And then Bill?
no, this doesn't even hit the, the reasonable test. But yes, I'm by myself listening to this, like the rest of the public. Thank you.
Okay. David?
Yes.
Don?
Yes, yes.
Wayne?
Yes, I'm in chambers.
Andy? Okay. Yes. Okay. And that's right. You're in chambers. And then Wayne?
Yes and yes.
Okay. And then I'm yes and yes. Don't think I missed anybody, did I? I think I got all the 7 of us who are here. So we will go into executive session. Let's prepare the room.
Okay, we're all set in chambers.
Okay. So we are now back in our formal session, and we are going to entertain a motion from David.
Yes,
It's item 4A on the
4A, I'm
agenda.
sorry.
It's a decision on ethics complaint 2020-01.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sarah. And then, David, you want to,
Yes. Pursuant to City Code Section 1.3.106C4, City Council shall provide written notice of its decision in ethics complaint 2020-01. City Council has determined to issue a finding of no violation of the City Code of Ethics under City Code Section 1.3.106C4A. It is the opinion of City Council that, considering the facts that are specific to this complaint, when there is no evidence of personal interest or gain, compliance with the procedural guidelines related to quasi-judicial matters before City Council are not within the scope of the City Code of Ethics. The Colorado Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 106A4, is the appropriate remedy to contest final agency action on quasi-judicial matters brought before City Council.
okay. Is there a second to the motion that was just read?
This is Andy, I'll second.
Andy will second. And so, Sarah, why don't you call the vote?
Councilmember Avila?
What a yes means and what a no means.
So yes means that you agree that there was no finding of an ethics violation, and the statement that was read is the one that's going to be the one that we're voting on.
Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, I get confused sometimes. So, but I want to be clear before I make the vote. So yes, I agree with the conclusion that was just read.
Okay.
Councilmember Geislinger?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
No matter how we wordsmith this, to excuse is to condone. No.
Councilmember Pico?
Yes.
Councilmember Scorman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Williams?
Yes.
Okay, so that passes on a 6-1 vote. Am I right on that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then, David, you wanted to we have to make a formal motion.
Right.
Okay.
I make a second motion to release the complaint from the Ethics Commission and the document.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Bill, second. All right, Sarah, call the vote on this. Any other discussion? Anybody online? I should have asked that earlier. Any other discussion? Okay.
Councilmember Scorman, sorry to interrupt. I just want to clarify. So the motion is to release the complaint and the documentation. I think we need to, if the intent is to release the report of the Independent Ethics Commission, that the motion needs to be specific to that document. And there are also exhibits attached to that document.
Then I will modify my motion to accomplish what our attorney just said. So it's specific to the report in the.
Okay. And the second, Bill, you
Second.
fine with that? Okay, good. All right, no other discussion about that. Let's call the vote, Sarah.
Councilmember Avila,
In the spirit of transparency, yes.
Councilmember Geislinger,
Yes.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Councilmember Murray,
Yes.
Councilmember Pico,
Yes.
Councilmember Scorman,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
All right, so that passes on a 7-0 vote. So any other business today? I think if not, we will adjourn. And everybody have a happy.
Bill does want to make a statement.
Oh, did you want to make a statement? Go ahead. You wanted to make a statement. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sincere.
this is for the public. I want them to understand my no vote. The integrity of our process and voting must be protected and preserved. This council collectively has had over 40 ethics briefings. These briefings have stressed the importance placed on ensuring that the public maintains its trust in this council and our voting judgments, and that we honor our commitment to impartiality. This event has tested this assurance. I have spoken often about my concerns in reopening votes and have worried that the council rules used to reopen votes in a quasi-judicial setting would lead us down a path that would be difficult to repair. We have gone down that path. We unfairly and unjustly denied our community the right to redress issues brought up during a quasi-judicial process. The council's integrity is being challenged here. Integrity is part conscience and part process. We violated both. Whether it was confusion or a change of heart as described by a council member, we should have been advised to stop the action and have an explanation of the consequences. Then we could have decided how to proceed. As a result, the council prevented due process by not informing the public, who had spoken out against this project, that it was open for reconsideration. The public's right under quasi-judicial procedures to readdress the issues revealed was denied. Previous IEC complaints were handled more professionally than this one. There are so many disconnects in this process, it suggests being deliberate. If one connects the dots between the developer and the chief of staff and city planning director's correspondence with the council member, there would be an occasion to believe that influence peddling might have occurred. In addition, the council members' responses, both oral and written, demonstrate a severe lack of continuity and suggest something more than confusion. It would be unfair due to the lack of rigor demonstrated in the interviews, exhibits, and documentation for this council to make an informed decision. But we cannot blame it all on our current circumstance of COVID restraints. I made 4 recommendations: public release of documents, which you've done; immediately modify council rules, which we need to work on; the IEC process, which was completely problematic, needs to be worked on. But the council needs to take appropriate measures to demonstrate to the public we are accountable for our actions. Misrepresentation to the IEC and failure to disclose ex parte communications are punishable offenses, which we have overlooked at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I got Andy, you wanted to speak last, I guess. So let me
On
have
a separate issue, yes.
Okay, David.
Yeah, I would just refer the public to the report of the Ethics Commission. The issue that, from my perspective at least, that was addressed or needed to be addressed is whether an inadvertent, in the words that were used as careless and negligent, failure to disclose something to the Ethics Commission and a failure to follow council rules without any evidence, zero evidence of an attempt for personal gain, where that failure to abide by council rules was fully disclosed to council, whether those rose to the level of ethics. Our motion and our finding is that there is not an ethics violation, even if there is evidence of failure to abide by the rules. And I agree with Mr. Murray that the rules addressing council as a whole need to merit additional investigation. I'm fully in support of that. But I stand by the findings of the Ethics Commission, the factual findings of the Ethics Commission. And I agree with two of them that I agree with many of them that a mere failure to follow council rules without evidence of personal, of trying to achieve a personal benefit does not rise to the level of an ethical violation.
Okay, thank you, David. I got Don and then Wayne.
Well, the central point behind all of Bill's statement, I firmly agree with. You know, in the military, they always told us, you know, our citizens hold us to a higher standard, and they should hold their elected officials, especially their local elected officials, to a higher standard at all as well. And that hearing was not one of our finest hours. It was fraught with errors. And I want to wholly endorse Bill's recommendation there that if we ever do on a public hearing ask for and vote on reconsideration, we can't do it on the slide like this. People, you know, there were emails coming out from the neighborhood that we won, and I had to send them back. Oh, no, wait a minute, you didn't. And they were aghast at how that happened. That was not our finest hour. We need to do better. Nor was with this ethics inspection itself, investigation, I'm sorry, on high, matched some of the high caliber we have received before. The ones we have received before, though, were done because of personalities and not procedures. We just had a person that was really, really good at it and gave us really, really good reports with full, deep investigations, videos, etc. And I agree with Bill. COVID, this world has found a way to still operate through COVID. I think that stuff we could have been in there, but that is not required in our procedures. The IC met what was required in our procedures. We were just used to better, and I think we also need to improve, go back and look at the IC rules and procedures and bring them up to the quality that has served us so well in the past and basically failed us on this one, as Bill has said.
Okay, thank you, Don. Wayne?
First, I want to thank the members who serve on our commission for their work in investigating this. And I frankly had enough information, in my view, to make a decision. And I appreciate their work because these are citizen volunteers who do that. So thank you. Let me explain why I disagree with one of your conclusions. The conclusion, and the only one that was sustained, was that a council member violated procedural rules by going to the site and looking at the site for a land use decision and having a discussion with a resident. In my view, that is not and should not be an ethics violation. Moreover, I do not believe it should even be a violation of the rules for a council member to look at a site. And I think, and it's one of the things that I have pushed for, that needs to change. I think asking council members to act in ignorance is wrong. I think acting council members to not look at a site unless they've already seen it, because frankly, some of us have seen sites. I use Robeson Arena as an example. My first office when I opened my own business was located in the Spencer Center directly across from the site where Robeson Arena is now under construction. I clearly knew about the site. I had seen it multiple times. To tell someone who was new to council you can't look at the site, I think is wrong. And so the reason I think why it's important to clarify what we've done here today is the decision of the majority of council is every technical violation of rules. For example, not referring to the president by a proper title. Every violation of rules is not necessarily an ethical violation. In this case, there was no evidence of personal gain or personal interest with respect to the council member, other than doing a little more homework. And so I don't believe that should be the basis of a violation of our ethical rules. And that is why I supported the decision of the majority of council today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. And I know Bill just commented. I guess it's the failure to disclose is what and you could be impartial is the big issue. But we will have more discussions about all this. I think it's really valuable. And then I'll let Andy have the last word here, I think.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to change gears completely at this point.
Okay.